All right, so here is my all-time favorite softbox. If I had to really say I love a softbox, it's this one. This one's a little bit more expensive. It's just over $300. This is called an octa. Okay, it has 8 sides and it's huge. So this is 39 inches. I believe this is either 52 or 56. It's a very, very large softbox, and it creates the most beautiful wrapping light. What's nice about this is you can light one person, you can light 2 people, and it's just, this is the king of the gorgeous lights. So if most of the people that you're going to be shooting are going to be women or babies, mothers and children together, things like that, that kind of portraits, and you want the softest possible light, just keep thinking, think big. I need a bigger softbox. We actually have the 72-inch version of this as well. I'm not going to pull it out because it looks so big, it kind of looks ridiculous. But this is the one we probably use the most. We love this one. And it creates very, very beautiful light. And Brad's going to go ahead and position it. Okay, that's good.
It's a different light.
It's a different light. Okay, so this is same company, same stuff, but it is their next model up. It's a 600-watt light. We're going to still put the power way down. It doesn't really much matter. But anyway, look at the size of this sucker. It's beautiful. I love it. Okay, let's get in a little closer. All right, and then we'll talk about positioning of the light in a moment. And then we're going to talk about lighting her hair separately. All right, let's see if we can get the lighting just a little, get a little bit better shot. We'll really start to work this. Great. Let's take a test shot and see how we're doing as far as power and things go. Ooh, look at that. Now, do you notice the light got a little softer again? So I'm gonna have to change the f-stop or increase the power. As the light gets bigger, it does eat up a little more light. But look how much better that looks. Just right where it sits right now, the light has come a long, long way. Now, there's some things that we can do to tweak it. So let me just spend a minute here working with Nellie and let's really nail that shot. Now that we have the right position, the right angle, and the right softbox, now you're going to find out, as our friend Joe McNally says, lighting with a strobe is a game of inches. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and crank up the power of the light a little bit. Like I said, it's a little bit low. Let's crank it up by about 3 notches, maybe 4. And then we'll take another test shot. Let's see how we're going. All right, Nellie, you ready? Great. You look great. I look great. Okay, all right, just let me see how we're doing over here. Just trying to make sure she laughed. Anytime I say I look great, believe me, it makes people laugh. All right, let's take a couple more. These are looking great though, seriously. Here we go. Fantastic. All right, great, that was great, thanks very much. Okay, let's see how we're doing. Okay, except for a couple of places where I didn't actually crop correctly or compose correctly in the camera, the shots look great, the light looks so much better. It's just, you can see the progression from where we started. Let's take a look at the very first shot here. Then let's look at some of the ones that we just took. And we really haven't done anything. All I did was tap the button 3 times here just to make it a little bit brighter. But you saw that as we got in closer, the quality of the light got better. It did get brighter. But then as we got bigger softboxes and bigger softboxes, the shots look better and better and better. And we're only just using one light.
First things first, I'm going to go to max sync speed, which is a 200th of a second, not a 250. See how we do. 250. I'm going to drop my ISO really low because I don't want a lot of floor detail. I want to be able to control that floor. So I've got pretty much darkness at ISO 100 at f4.5. Now I know I've got enough light in that pack to get 4.5, so I'm actually going to go to 5.6. I'm on manual in the camera, 250 at 5.6. ISO 100. Okay. Yeah. What we're going to do is swing that light that way. Yeah, did I say 250? I meant 200. Interesting thing about Nikon and Canon. They all say that they sync at 2/50th of a second, and they do, with their own flashes. And you put a third-party pack on there, and you got to go to a 200th. A lot of stuff going on with hypersync right now. Real fast shutter speeds linking up to bigger flash packs, but it's not there yet. Okay, Drew, can you get where John is and see what the angle of approach of that light is? Okay, the hot spot of the light is about 10 feet in front of John. It needs to angle up. So actually the sweet spot of the light needs to blow past John towards this wall. So Will, if you can pitch that light up a little bit, please. Now the nice thing about the skyports, the way they relate to the Quadra, is there's a skyport receiver inside the Quadra, and I can talk to the Quadra light from up here and tell it to go up in power. How am I doing on power down there, Will?
6.
All right, so I'm maxed on the pack. I was able to send the signal from this to that. Okay, John, can you move a little closer to the light, please? All right. Maybe just even a touch more if you don't mind. Okay, let's try that. Opening up a little bit. Cool. Okay. Now, I'm going to go to a focus mode where I have my focus cursor right on John. Hey, John, this is all about your shape. So try to relate to the light and know that your shadow is coming straight towards me. Okay? Hang on just a second. Okay, ready and anytime. Okay, let's try that again. Sorry. Now I'm going to back off of my autofocus. I'm going to go to manual focus because I'm going to want a freedom to move around in terms of my, my relative frame to him. Okay, John, here we go again. 1, 2, 3. Sorry. Nice. It's nice. Okay, now John, you go down with one arm and you come straight up with the other. Can you take your other arm that you're not supporting yourself with and throw it this way? Yeah, or just away from your body. Instead of a line like this, I'm looking for a line like that, if that's possible for you. Okay? All right, ready and go. Nice. Okay, ready and go. Cool. Now that's awesome. He's kind of in the sweet spot of the light. We're getting good shadow. Okay, let's do one more. Ready? And go. Nice. All right, Drew.
Okay, that's perfect. Perfect, Lila. Thank you. That's great. Chin down a little. When you are working with a couple that they aren't professional models, sometimes when you do shots, people are very uncomfortable being serious. I don't know if anybody else has ever had that, but people get really uncomfortable. So you look great. So you know what you're doing. But a couple tips that I give people. First of all, for guys, sometimes you get guys and they look angry. If somebody's serious, a lot of times they clamp down on their jaw when they're serious. So one of the first things I'll tell people is relax your jaw. And a lot of times just say, unbite your teeth, relax your jaw. That will work a lot of times. It also is more flattering because when people have flexed jaw muscles, guy or girl, it makes their face look wider. So I say relax your jaw. The next thing is a lot of people, they have tension in their shoulders. They keep their shoulders up high. I'll just say, shake your shoulders out, relax, elongate, pull down the shoulders. It also makes people look skinnier because it elongates the neck. So I'll do the shoulders, I'll do the jaw. Another thing for people also that's really big is when you tell people to be serious, a lot of times they're tight-lipped, and it just looks unnatural. It doesn't look right. So there's a couple things. I tell people, okay, just loose lips, but what happens is they just have their mouth open. So what I like to tell people to do is to breathe in and breathe out, and how they feel at the end of that breath, the feeling of the slightly parted lips, that's what you want for a serious shot, generally. It usually looks good. So I tell people to breathe in, breathe out. And that feeling just at the very end, because it's not tight, it's not a drop jaw, and it usually makes a good serious face. I also tell people if they're kind of dead in the eyes, sometimes I have them squint a little bit. It just makes it look like they're interacting with the camera, just to squint a tiny bit. Or, you know, the think happy thoughts. You know, you've talked to them, they have a dog they love, or they have a hobby they love, ask them to think about that. And a lot of times they'll get a little bit more expression in the eyes. She doesn't need any guidance, she knows exactly what she's doing. So let me just shoot a few more beauty shots. They look great, so. Okay, so just like that, perfect. Just like that's great. Chin down a little. Good. Tilt your head that way just a little bit. Good, right there. You can pull the hood up just a little bit more. It's kind of falling off. Right there is perfect. Great. Okay, good. That looks perfect. Okay, so now pull that side back, and you're actually going to I'll have you put a hand right here and just kind of pull that away. That was putting a shadow on her face, so I'm going to pull it back, but I can literally just have her hold it because I make it look like she's pulling back on it. So do that. Perfect. And that blue ring is a really nice touch against the red. I like that. Good choice. I'm going to go for a mysterious shot, and I'm going to have you put half of this over your face. So I'm going to just pull it down and hold it halfway. Good. And I think I'm going to have to bring you maybe over here to fill the light in correctly. All right, so let's see. Maybe right there. One of the things too when I'm working with people and I'm posing them a lot is I make sure I ask them beforehand, before I go touching in and fixing things, say, oh, do you mind if I fix your hair? Do you mind if I come in and tweak something? It just makes it easier. Just let somebody know you respect their personal boundaries.
How about, have you ever done the holding the hands, walking away from the camera, looking back at the camera shot? That almost sounded like Get Smart, you know. Looking away from the camera and looking back at the camera shot. Yeah. Okay, so I want you to hold hands like that, come nice and close together. Have you ever done that kind of a shot and it looks a little bit awkward? I'll tell you why, because you said to the couple, guys, go for a walk and look back at the camera every so often. They might look back at the camera when it's not exactly the right way of doing it, they're not balanced. Let me explain. Go perfectly flat together. So if I said to the guys, so bring this leg and this leg, bring it forward. Now try to look back in this way, go back. You see how awkward that is? They're off balance, it looks a little bit weird. Now come back, bring your feet together. Get this leg and this leg, bring it back, the inner legs. Now look back. You see how easy that was? I'm saying to you is that that's what you need to know, is that the balance, it's almost like if you ever learn any kind of martial art, like any kind of like karate or anything like that, if you're off balance, there's no power. It's almost the exact same thing. The pose will be a lot more powerful if the balance is correct, okay? All right, so soften up a little bit. Also, although today is not really about lighting, your pose will be affected by the direction of light, okay? So let me explain. Let's say if the sun was coming from that direction, and I said to the couple, guys, go for a walk. Okay, so just, there we go, beautiful. In fact, this is what I used to do. There's me with the camera, there's the couple. If I just said to you, in fact, I'll do it right now. Hey guys, go for a walk, come over here, let's do it. So they're walking at that pace, and you might get them out of focus, right? Wouldn't you agree? It took me years to work this out. It's such a simple, stupid thing. And now what I might say is this. Guys, what I'd like you to do is walk about this pace as you walk. Now everything's in focus. I can focus on the eye, recompose, shoot, focus, recompose, shoot. And also, what happens to her figure when she walks that slowly? What would you do? I want you to walk, just don't even think about it with what I said, just walk slowly and walk that way. Look at her figure. You see what happens? If you walk fast, the legs sort of almost part. But if you walk slow, you're almost forced to balance, and therefore you get the good old crossing over model catwalk type of look and feel. Now, what I was saying to you earlier today about, just a moment ago, about the direction of light and the pose is affected by the direction of light. So now I've taken it one step further. If I want the bride's face looking that way, I don't just wait for her to spontaneously look that way and hope for the best. I will tell her, I want you to look at the corner of that light. Now, I want his face turned towards that light as well, because don't forget, if I want to light them this way, have a shadow here and here, therefore shooting on the short side of the face, then I need to give them an excuse to be there. So your hand's going to be in your pocket. I'll give her something to do with her dress. Hold your dress. And I want you to talk and whisper in her ear.
In fact, and if he doesn't want to whisper and he's one of those guys that like, yeah, whatever, I'll get him to sing like Bohemian Rhapsody, but that makes everybody laugh, okay? All right, so as you walk slowly, sing Bohemian Rhapsody with spirit and with zest, okay? And keep on looking that way. So go. I see a little silhouette of a man. So you see what happens? So now we're getting the shot that we want. All right, come back, guys. All right, you didn't know that song. You didn't practice it. That's all good.
I wasn't at Hamburger Mary's.
Yeah, you weren't at Hamburger Mary's. All right.
The second thing I'll do is we're going to create another blank layer. So Shift, Apple, Command, N, sorry, and a brain freeze. And we're going to make these lights have a little bit of atmosphere. And you notice again in a lot of my sports athletes that are in a stadium kind of environment, I have things that kind of streak into the scene. So let's cause a little bit of streaking to go on from these lights. And again, you have to be on a Wacom tablet to do this. If you don't have a Wacom tablet, when you do your streaking, it's going to be a straight line. And the only way really that I've found to do that is to do a Command T, which is free transform, and then you just shrink the one side to where it creates the taper effect for you. But really, the tablet's the way to go. So we're going to take the Shift key, and I'm going to click on the light where I want to start, and then I'm going to click somewhere out in the distance behind her. And I do that again, click on the light, click. You're just causing a little bit of streaking going here. And if you make a mistake, which I do often, I just do Apple Z or Option Apple Z will go back a few steps. And this takes a little bit of practice. You just want to create, oops, I went too low on that little starting point. And I just want to, and by how hard you click is going to change sort of the overall tapering effect. So it's a little bit of a tricky thing to do here. And you can overdo this, and I have, and I'm sure that your taste is going to be different than mine. And we're not locked in here. We're going to blur this, by the way. But anyways, so I go along here, and I just do this. And that didn't look good. So let's just say that's good, all right? Now, let's go up to the blur. We're going to take Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and let's go until we start to get a sense that we see a little bit of those little streaks. Okay, and we can change the opacity later, but I would say about there looks pretty good. And then I'm going to add a mask to that layer. I'm going to fill that mask with black. So let's go to black here. I know there's some shortcuts for that, but let's show you now. It's taken that completely out. And I go over here to the gradient tool, make sure I'm selected on the second little icon here, which is the round circle one. And now I'm going to make sure I'm on white, my foreground color, and I just pull here, and now it tapers that whole effect. So it makes it look like it's kind of dissipating, out. See if we just, let's go a little bit more. Again, it's an artistic decision that you have to make.
We've moved around to the rear of the car now. What we're going to look at here is this light cluster. Now, one of the things with this is, before we were shooting the front of the car, we've got that gorgeous, that emblem and the chrome and everything, and we're lighting directly into that. Now, one of the problems, when you're shooting something like this, which is transparent, if we put the light straight into there, all you're going to see basically back is the reflection of your light. If you move the light too far away, you're not really going to light the object. So I've placed this roughly in this position at the moment, and one of the interesting things you'll see is that the light isn't actually pointing straight on. My intention is to try and shoot up to give the car a bit more prominence, a bit more sort of power, if you like, by changing my angle, by going up into the subject. I'm interested in this. I don't particularly want to overlight this. A lot of people who do detail, they tend to throw lots of light into something, and sometimes it's nice if it's just coming out of the darkness, if it's almost like it adds mystery to it. We've got the CTS here. Again, one of the things we want to do is maybe have that showing, but maybe not too prominent. It's just there in the darkness, you can just see it. So this light is actually, if you look at it, it's almost going down to the side of the car rather than the rear of the car. So if we come down and actually have a look at what this shot looks like, it probably makes more sense from what I'm looking at here, because again, like I say, when we're shooting this, by having the light in position and by using the modeling light, we can actually see what we're looking at so that we can adjust our position ever so slightly, because it is literally a case of a few centimeters can make a massive difference to a shot like this. We've got a fixed light, we can move our position and get exactly where we want to be in the reflection of the chrome and the light. So let's bring you down here so that you can see what I'm looking at here. Okay, so let's have a look and let's bring you down to what roughly I'm seeing when I look through my camera. If you can see, we come into here, we can see the strip going across. Obviously we're looking at this real-time, live view if you like, so the still is just using the modeling light to see what we can see. When you actually shoot the frame, you're going to get a lot more darkness, obviously, because you're wound down to about f20, f22 at the moment. But you can see by making that tiny movement, moving your position, it changes everything, the way everything feels. And that's what I'm talking about. Get your light into that approximate position and then move yourself around the car. And look how, if we look at the CTS there, look how there's reflections, changes on that. We've got quite a nice reflection, we've taken it down, it's dull, 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 and it's only on the outside edge. That tiny movement makes a massive, massive difference. So let's go ahead now and take a shot and see what we can do. So this is our shot, and what you can see here is we've got the light and it's going up and it's sweeping across. We've copied that sweep across onto the paintwork as well, the bodywork of the car. The CTS, it's in there, it's not overly distinct, but you can see that it's CTS. And more importantly, we've got these ribs here. So a very easy detail shot, but again, very effective.
The key to shooting in this harsh light right now, number one, I want to expose for the face properly. How am I going to do it? Well, manual or aperture priority? The answer is yes. You can use both. If I was in aperture priority, as I discussed in my Essentials of Creativity class, I'm going to judge the overall scene. And if I think that the overall scene is darker compared to the face, then I'm going to take my exposure comp dial and I'm going to dial it under. I might start out at 7/10 under. That's assuming that I was shooting Sarah's face, and the darker areas behind her in the frame. However, let's say I wanted to get some of this grass that's kind of blown out. Then dialing under exposure compensation may not work. What I might do in this situation, which is what I'm going to do, is start somewhere in manual and get myself an exposure value. Why aren't I using aperture priority here? Because the meter is going to get fooled and it's going to be all over the place. It all depends upon what's within the frame and what the camera is seeing. That's what's going to determine the exposure value in aperture priority. This is where manual exposure mode will be superior. So what I'm going to do now, I have my 70-200, my primary lens for shooting my bride. And what we're going to do is sort of fake it a little bit. At 2 o'clock, we're going to have the couple seeing one another for the first time. But right now, at high noon, I'm going to show you that I can make pictures here. We can already see that the light is very even on Sarah's face. But if we did this right there, you can see this nasty, harsh hot spots that come on Sarah's face. And once we do that, we keep the subjects back to the sun. We keep the subject between me and the light source. We can make pictures at any time of day, including 12 noon. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to make a couple snaps. I'm in manual exposure value mode. All right, I'm going to get a reading here. Let's see where we need to be. I pretty much nailed it on the first one. I like to shoot wide open. I shoot wide open at 2.8, especially for images like this, mainly because I like a nice blurred background. This is a phenomenal lens. This is a Nikkor 7200 VR2 lens. I've got it wide open at 2.8. I'm in manual mode. ISO, as slow as I can go. Why? Because I like the highest quality that I can start with. And in this light, heck, I can go down to 100 if I wanted to. 200 is a good start. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take a few. And Sarah, you can just kind of do your thing. In a little while, we're going to make it more real with her boyfriend Sammy coming behind her to pretend it's a bride and groom seeing each other for the first time. But right now, I'm making picture after picture after picture. My exposure value is 640 at 2.8.
We're going to 23rd and 5th, Madison Square Park.
Okay. Okay, so Jay, how do you feel? Well, first, lovely cab we're in. How do you feel about failure?
A failure is something you have to accept. It's part of the game. And if you are worried about failure, it has a paralyzing effect. I remember what FDR said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. What we have to worry about is worrying about failure. If it happens, it happened. You pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you start all over again. And I have all these quotes that I read to classes. One of them is, they don't call it trial and success, they call it trial and error. And that if you embrace failure, it can't hurt you in any way. Jasper Johns once said he saw failure as a form of progress. Because if you don't fail, it means you haven't tried. And if you do try, failure is an option, and you have to accept that. You can't be frightened by it. So if I take out all the bad pictures, then I look back and I think, Jesus, I'm hot stuff. But I'm not hot stuff. I fail a great deal. And failure is part of the business. I mean, you cannot go out and take all terrific pictures. If you do, then that comes to the line that Woody Allen had, which was, if you always succeed, you are not trying hard enough. And there's got to be a failure rate. And I once wrote that when you talk with nothing to say, it's bad. But it's not nearly half as bad as when you shoot with nothing to say, because you still got to edit the damn pictures later on.
All right, we want to do talk about a new way of shooting some really interesting winter images. In earlier episodes, we talked about POV, or point of view photography, where you have a camera, maybe it's attached to your chest or a helmet cam. You can do that with a standard 35mm camera, but obviously it's really big and you're limited by the activities you can do. Here's the solution to that problem. This is the GoPro Hero head cam. You can see it's this tiny little camera, and that's why it's such a beautiful thing. As you'll see in just a moment, you can actually have this on a helmet or mount it on a kayak. You can put it in a lot of different places, and you get this amazing perspective. If you want to know what it feels like to go down, ski off a cliff, catch a bunch of air, and land in deep powder, that's the view this camera is going to give you when it's attached to your helmet. The specs on this camera are it'll shoot stills at 5 megapixels. The way that it'll work is you can set the picture, you turn your camera on and it'll shoot at regular intervals. You can go 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds every minute. The battery life is about 2 hours. So you start this camera up, you attach it, and I'll show you that in just a second. And you pretty much forget it's on your head or attached to wherever you're going to have it. And every few seconds, it's shooting a still image. So very slick stuff. It has a little standard SD slot here for a flash card that's already in here. You can barely see it. It keeps it very flush so that it'll stay compact. If you're into video, this will also shoot 1080p high def video. So if you want to shoot some video along with stills, you have that option as well. One of the cool things about this is it has a huge wide angle lens. It's almost like a fisheye lens. It'll see a full 170 degrees. So if I have this on my helmet, it is seeing down my skis, my snowboard. It's going to see where I'm headed down the terrain. To do a head cam point of view shot, POV shot, you pretty much have to have a fisheye perspective. Otherwise, it's just too narrow of an angle of view. Here's another little great thing about this camera. It comes with the waterproof housing. So think about this. If we're outside in a blizzard, or say I'm paddling in whitewater, or whatever the case may be, it starts raining, you can actually put this camera in this housing. Fits nice and snug in here. Seals up just like that. Good to over 100 feet. So if you're a scuba diver, something like that, you can take this thing down really far. It's very simple in how it operates, and I think that that's key with this camera, and why it's so nice is it pretty much has 2 buttons to navigate the menu and to turn it on. Having it in a waterproof housing is a very nice idea because of this. Here's my snow riding helmet, so when I ski or snowboard, I'm going to always wear a helmet. This camera will come with a bunch of little stick attachments. They have a couple of these. They also have just a plain head strap, but I can pretty much clip that on there. Another thing that's worth pointing out is I've already adjusted this camera at the right angle so that I know what it's going to see. You'll notice that it doesn't have a big LCD like we do on our 35mm cameras. So you have to kind of have this set up before you hit the slope so you know that it's adjusted right at the right angle and it's seeing what you want to see. It's so lightweight, I'm not even going to know it's on my head. Pretty much strap in and I'm ready to go. And since it'll have a 2-hour battery, it just goes and goes and goes, and I'm good to go. GoPro Hero Head Cam, really cool.
You know, we've been talking about these 4 applications of light: additive, subtractive, transmission, reflective. And so what I want to talk about now is the reflective. And a lot of people use reflectors in their outdoor photography. But let's talk about a good reason to use reflectors and how to properly use a reflector. One of the interesting things that I've noted over the years is that whenever you use a reflector, there's a good reason for it. In this case like this, we're photographing Erica. She's backlit completely by the sun. And you can see this great highlight in her hair, and especially with her light hair and with her light shoulders. When I photograph her, if I expose for her face against the shadow, the open sky here in front of her, the problem is that the exposure for the face is going to be great, but I'm going to blow out her hair. One of the things people forget or really don't maybe pay attention to is that if you bring a reflector in, by adding light to her face, I can close down for the exposure that comes in on the face, which is going to add about a stop of light. When I close down for the increase on the face, it's going to calm down all the ambient around her, which means that everything that the sun hits is going to be 1 stop darker. Well, it's going to be the same darkness that I'm opening up, if that makes sense. So I'm shifting the key again. With the transmission, with the diffused material, I'm shifting the key to a brighter area in the background. In other words, my subject is losing light and I open up for the loss. But with a reflector, I'm adding light to the face and I'm closing down for the increase. And as I close down for the increase, the background gets dark. So basically what I'm saying is you can have a higher key or a lower key photograph depending entirely on what you do to the face. If I want my background key to be brighter, I need to take light away from the face and open up for the loss. And if I want the background to be darker, I need to add light to the face and close for the increase. So that's what we're going to do at this point. We've already done the other one with the transmission. So now let's bring in a white reflector. We're going to reflect it right back onto the face, and we're going to close down for the increase, and you'll just see the highlights calm down. All right, so let me take a look at this face. Look at this girl. All right, I'm seeing the highlight. Why don't you go ahead and lay that down for just a second, because it's just causing a little bit of a highlight in her eye. There we go. That's better. I was seeing just a little bit of it on the edge. Great. So in this case, I've got the exposure on her face looks correct, but I've just completely blown out her hair. The light is just so bright coming from behind. And what we'll do with the reflector panel is draw that light back into her face, and we'll change our exposure to compensate, and that's going to calm down that highlight dramatically. So now let's bring in the panel. An interesting thing, a lot of people are trying to figure out, where do you put the reflector? You know, assistants will grab it and hold it down below automatically, and they'll just kind of start wiggling around and kind of bouncing down from below. That's not where you want to put it. What you want to do is look at the ground and find the shadow. Look at this angle. You see this angle of the shadow on the ground? That's where the reflector goes. You're exactly perfect. You're at the right angle. So just bring it in closer to her, and let's get it up a little bit higher, because I want this to be up high coming down. This is now my main light. It's not a fill-in for my ratio. This is the main light now. I'm going to be exposing for this. Now here's what I need you to do, my dear. I need you to turn your shoulders to me just a bit, and now bring your head back to the panel. Just close your eyes for a second, because it's going to get real bright there. Right there. Can you see this increase of light on her face? Let's take another reading here, and let's see what the difference is. So now I just increased by 2 stops on her face. I went exactly 2 stops brighter on the face. So I'm going to close down 2 stops, and that bright highlight is going to get 2 stops, 2 complete stops darker. I'm not a photojournalist. I'm a commercial guy, and I have to control light more than photojournalists have to control light. Can you back up your left hand just about 1 inch, Kathy? Right there, that's it. Good, good, good. Your eyes up. Oh, that was nice. Let's try that. Wow, that was perfect.
Because I'm using the accent light, or the light on the background, from the same position as my main light, it will give you a more natural look. When I would have lit my model from the other way, you will have 2 light sources that will hit the model from a different position. It can be nice for an accent light, but I don't like it in this case. I really want my light to look natural. Chin up a little bit. Okay, can you put both feet on the floor? Both feet on the floor, sorry. And move yourself a little bit that way. Okay. Cross your, that's nice. Keep that position. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to change lens now, because I'm a little bit too on the long side. So I'm going to change to the 55 to 110. That translates back to 35 mil to approximately 24, I'm sorry, 55. It's probably 25 to 50. Please look up to the light. Very nice. Okay. Look into the light source, please. And because I'm shooting a little bit wider now, I can see more of my accent light on the wall. And it just gives the wall a little bit of life. That's cool. Very nice. And when I go a little bit more wide, I can see even more. That's cool, just move around. Chin up a little bit. I want to have 2 cat's lights in your eyes. One of the nice things you can tell your model, if she sees one of the light sources with both of her eyes, she will have cat's lights in both of those eyes. So when you're working with an inexperienced model, just always tell her to find the light. This means she always has to look at the light source, and you can see 2 cat's lights. So find your light, Dallas, and look into the light. Very nice. And Dallas, of course, knows this, but it's just a little tip when you're working with models that don't know. This is cool. That's nice. Chin up a little bit. Now look all the way down. That's cool. Okay, thank you. Final 2 shots. 1. And 1 more into the light. That's cool. And a very big smile. Into the light, please. Very big smile. Yay, there we go. So as you can see, a plain wall, just a sofa and a model, 2 lights, and you can make a beautiful image. It's very simple. Just keep looking at what you're doing. Don't just set your lights and shoot, but try to visualize the image, and what you have in your head, try to create that with your strobes.
Okay, here we are on location, and it's a beautiful overcast day, and you can see we've got some beautiful light coming in here. We have our subject into place, everything's nice, just there's some stray light coming over here, so we'd like to add just a little more shadow to this to give us more of a ratio. So that's when you come in with a black gobo. If you're looking to wonder why there's a black gobo, it's to make more contrast, more shading, more wraparound to the face. So Sandra, come in a little closer to her. And now you can start to see how we're closing up the stray light over here and giving us nice wraparound light. So let's take a couple shots here so you can see the before and the after. Remember, on an overcast day, a lot of times there's no direction to the light. It's coming from everywhere. At this point, you're going to want to use a black gobo and control it, and you force the light to come into the direction that you're looking for. In these 2 images, we can see the comparison from using a black gobo and not using a black gobo. All right, if you've ever listened to me talk about lighting outside, I'll normally tell you let the sun be behind the subject. Use it as a hair light or a rim light, edge light. Somehow put the light behind them so they're not all squinting and making them shut their eyes off. But in this particular exercise, we're going to use the sun as the main light, and we're going to just take a simple diffuser, put it between the sun and the subject, and let it tame the light and use it as the main light. So I'm going to go outside, I'm going to use some of the evergreen trees that are outside, so our subject has a hat on. We're going to do some nice close-ups and use the tree branches and make it 3-dimensional. But what I want you to see is how easy it is to take a diffuser out there if it's not too windy, and even let the parent hold it. Now when they're holding the diffuser, you got to watch it so that the subject's not putting the diffuser or the sun right behind them. They're standing, their body's blocking the sun and putting shadows on the diffuser. So when you hold the diffuser, you keep it up high, you move it out of the way of your own shadow onto it, and put it between the sun and your subject. And then also, if the diffuser's over to the side, they can kind of watch what they're doing too around the corner of it. So watch as we go outside and we just take another simple photograph. I'm just going to have the parent hold this diffuser, put it between the subject, and obviously the diffuser is not that big, so it's going to work on any kind of close-up that you're going to work with, but it's not going to work on a full length. It's not big enough. So let's take a look. We can see how the raw lighting and the sun's coming in and just producing really harsh shadows on the face. Now we can see the results of adding the diffuser between the sun and the subject and making the lighting wrap around.